The coffee mug shattered against the kitchen wall, sending ceramic shards across the pristine white tiles. Marcus stood there, chest heaving, his face contorted with familiar rage. "You're being too emotional again, Sarah," he spat, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair. "This is exactly why I can't take you seriously. Everything is always a drama with you." I stood frozen by the sink, dish towel clutched in my trembling hands. Our daughter Emma's math homework lay abandoned on the counter, her colored pencils scattered across our battlefield of a marriage. Upstairs, I heard her bedroom door click shut. She'd learned to disappear when Daddy's voice got loud. "Too emotional?" I repeated slowly. "I'm too emotional because I asked you to pick up Emma from soccer practice? Because I'm tired of doing everything alone?" Marcus loosened his tie aggressively. "You knew what you were getting into when you married me. My career demands come first. The partnership track doesn't care about your feelings or your little soccer schedules." Little soccer schedules? As if our 8-year-old daughter's activities were mere inconveniences? I watched him pour himself 3 fingers of whiskey, his third since walking through the door. "I had a presentation today too," I said quietly. "The Morrison account. I've been working on it for 3 months." He waved dismissively. "That's different. Your little marketing job isn't exactly life or death." My little marketing job? The director position I'd fought for, the award-winning campaigns, the salary that paid half our mortgage, all reduced to a hobby. I bent down to pick up the larger pieces of the broken mug, each shard a fragment of something that could never be whole again. This particular mug had been a Mother's Day gift from Emma, painted with purple flowers and "World's Best Mom" in her careful handwriting. "Look what you made me do," Marcus said, gesturing at the mess. "Now you'll probably cry about some stupid cup." But I wasn't crying. For the first time in months, I felt something else entirely. A cold, crystalline clarity that cut through the fog of exhaustion that had been my constant companion. "Clean it up," he commanded, heading toward his office. "And keep Emma quiet. I have calls to make." I remained crouched on the floor, holding the pieces of Emma's gift, and something inside me shifted, settled, decided. 3 days later, I sat in the sterile waiting room of Henderson, Walsh & Associates, Family Law. The leather chair squeaked every time I shifted nervously. "Mrs. Davidson?" A woman in her 50s appeared, gray hair in a no-nonsense bun. "I'm Catherine Walsh. Please come in." Her office was warm, lived in, with family photos crowding her desk and real plants thriving on the windowsill. She gestured for me to sit facing each other rather than across her imposing desk. "Tell me what brings you here today," she said gently. I'd practiced this conversation in my car, in the shower, while folding Emma's socks. But sitting here, the words tumbled out raw. "My husband thinks I'm too emotional," I began, then immediately felt foolish. "I mean, that's not why I'm here, not really. I'm here because I can't do this anymore. Because my daughter shouldn't grow up thinking this is what marriage looks like." Catherine nodded, making notes. "How long have you been married?" 10 years in November. We met in college. He was pre-law, I was studying marketing. He was so charming then, so attentive. And when did things change? I thought about it. Gradually, then all at once. Little comments about my weight after Emma was born, dismissing my opinions, making me feel stupid for caring about things he deemed unimportant. But the real shift happened when he made partner 2 years ago. Catherine set down her pen. "Sarah, I need to ask some difficult questions. Has Marcus ever been physically violent with you or Emma?" "No," I said quickly, then paused. "Not exactly. He's never hit us. But he throws things, slams doors. He gets in my face when angry, uses his size to intimidate. Emma's started flinching when he raises his voice. That's important information. What about financial control?" The questions continued for an hour.
Did he monitor my spending? Yes. Did I have access to all our accounts? Only household checking. Was my name on the deed? No, his inheritance. Did he support my career? Only when convenient. By the end, I felt simultaneously lighter and heavier. Lighter because someone finally understood. Heavier because I now saw the mountain I'd have to climb. I want you to think carefully about this, Catherine said as we wrapped up. Divorce is never easy, especially with children involved. But from what you've described, you have grounds for both divorce and a strong case for primary custody. Primary custody. The words sent hope through me. What would I need to do? Document everything. Keep a journal of incidents, save screenshots of financial accounts, and most importantly, don't let him know what you're planning until we're ready to file. I left her office with a folder full of paperwork and a secret that felt like a ticking bomb in my chest.
The next few weeks passed in a strange double life. On the surface, I played dutiful wife and mother, making dinner, helping with homework, listening to Marcus's endless complaints. But underneath, I was methodically building my case. I started a journal, documenting every slight, every dismissive comment, every time Emma retreated during his outbursts. I screenshotted bank statements, discovering hundreds in charges to restaurants I'd never been to, and a jewelry store purchase made after our worst fight. The jewelry wasn't for me. My friend Lisa became my unwitting accomplice. When I said I was staying late for the Morrison campaign, I was actually meeting with Catherine or researching divorce law. When I said I was having lunch with a client, I was at the bank opening my own checking account. "You seem different lately," Emma said one evening. "Happier." My heart clenched. "Do I?" She nodded. "You smile with your eyes now, like in the pictures from before I was born." Before I was born. Before Marcus gradually convinced me that every emotion was wrong, every opinion naive. "I love you, sweet pea," I whispered, kissing her forehead. "You know that, right? No matter what happens, Mommy loves you more than all the stars." She giggled at our old phrase, but I caught something in her expression, a flicker of worry, as if she sensed the undercurrent of change. Meanwhile, Marcus remained obliviously consistent. He criticized my cooking, too salty, my parenting, too permissive, my appearance, I'd let myself go, and my responses to his criticisms, too sensitive. It was almost comical how predictable he'd become. The breaking point came Thursday evening. Emma had drawn our family for art class, 3 stick figures under a rainbow, but only 2 figures were smiling. The tall one had angry eyebrows. "This is beautiful, honey," I said, studying her artwork. Marcus glanced over from his laptop. "Why does the daddy look angry?" Emma shrugged, suddenly fascinated by her shoelaces. "I don't know. It's just her artistic interpretation," I said quickly. "Artistic interpretation?" Marcus laughed harshly. "She's 8, Sarah. She doesn't have artistic interpretations. She's just drawing what she sees." He turned to Emma. "Daddy's not angry all the time, is he, sweetheart?" Emma looked between us, trapped. "Sometimes you use your loud voice." "Everyone uses their loud voice sometimes. That doesn't make them angry people." But I could see in his face the moment of self-recognition that he quickly buried under layers of justification. It wasn't his fault his voice carried. It wasn't his fault the house was stressful. That night, I added Emma's drawing to my growing file, not as evidence of Marcus's failures, but as proof of her perceptive innocence, and my responsibility to protect it. The call came Tuesday afternoon. Marcus's firm was representing a client in a messy divorce, and word had gotten back about my visits to Catherine's office. The legal community was smaller than I'd realized. I was reviewing campaign metrics when my phone buzzed. "We need to talk. Now." My hands went cold. I'd known this moment would come, but I'd hoped for more time. Catherine had warned me this period was the most dangerous, when an angry spouse realizes they're losing control. I drove home on autopilot, mind racing through scenarios. Would he throw things? Cry? Beg? Threaten? I found him in the kitchen, still in work clothes, whiskey already in hand despite it being barely 4 p.m. His laptop was open, and I could see he'd been researching divorce attorneys. "Interesting afternoon reading?" I asked, setting down my purse with deliberate calm. "Cut the act, Sarah. I know what you've been doing. Meeting with lawyers, planning to take my daughter away. Emma is our daughter. Don't." He slammed the glass down so hard I was surprised it didn't shatter. "Don't try to turn this into some noble crusade. You trying to destroy our family because you can't handle being married to a successful man." I stood perfectly still, watching him pace like a caged animal. Every instinct told me to apologize, to soothe, to de-escalate. But I thought of Emma's drawing, of Catherine's advice, of the woman I used to be. "Our family is already destroyed, Marcus. I'm just making it official." He whirled to face me. "You ungrateful, do you have any idea what you're throwing away? This house, your comfortable life, Emma's private school?" "You mean the house I'm not allowed to decorate? The comfortable life where I walk on eggshells? The school you chose without consulting me? Because you don't think strategically. You think with your emotions instead of your brain." There it was, the familiar refrain that had echoed through our marriage for years. I was too emotional, too sensitive, too much. "You're right," I said quietly. He paused, clearly not expecting agreement. "I am emotional. I feel things deeply. I care about people's happiness. I get excited about small victories and sad about genuine losses." I took a step closer. "And you've spent 10 years convincing me that was a flaw." "It is a flaw when you can't control it." "No, Marcus. It's a flaw when you use someone else's emotions to control them." His face flushed red. "You think you can just take Emma and waltz off into the sunset? You think any judge is going to give custody to an unstable woman who abandons her marriage on a whim?" "Unstable?" I almost laughed. "I've documented 2 years of your behavior, Marcus. Your drinking, your verbal abuse, your financial control. I have witnesses to your outbursts and recordings of your threats." That was a bluff. I didn't have recordings, but the flash of uncertainty in his eyes told me it had hit home. "You recorded me?" His voice climbed higher. "In my own home? This is my home too, or it was, until you made it clear I was just a tenant with benefits." He started toward me, and for a moment I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he stopped inches away, using his height to loom over me. "You won't win this," he said, his breath reeking of whiskey and rage. "I'll destroy you in court. I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of mother abandons her family." I met his gaze steadily. Is that a threat? It's a promise. And there it was, the mask finally slipping completely. No more pretense of being the wronged husband, just pure, ugly intimidation. "I see," I said softly. Then I walked to the front hall closet and retrieved the manila envelope I'd hidden behind our winter coats. Marcus followed me, still ranting about my ingratitude and his rights as a father. I let him talk while I opened the envelope and pulled out the papers inside. "You're being too emotional again," he sneered as I approached him. "This is exactly why." I held out the custody papers. Marcus stopped mid-sentence, his mouth hanging open as he stared at the legal documents in my outstretched hand. "You called me too emotional, so I went to court and calmly filed for divorce and primary custody. The papers were served to your office this morning, but I thought you should have a copy for your personal review." He took the papers with shaking hands, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief,
and finally rage. "This is dated 2 weeks ago," he said hoarsely. "Yes, turns out, when you're not busy managing someone else's emotions, you have a lot more time for strategic thinking." What followed was 3 weeks of hell. Marcus alternated between rage, manipulation, and desperate reconciliation attempts. He brought flowers and promised to change. He threatened custody battles and legal fees. He cried and accused me of destroying Emma's life. Through it all, I remained calm. Not because I felt calm. Inside, I was terrified and heartbroken. But I'd learned something important. Emotions didn't have to control my actions. I could feel scared and still make brave choices. Emma handled the news better than expected. When I explained that Mommy and Daddy would live in different houses, but both still loved her, she nodded solemnly. "Will Daddy still yell?" she asked. "Not at you," I promised. Marcus moved into a corporate apartment. His visits with Emma were tense. He had no idea how to parent without me as buffer. He took her to expensive restaurants where she ordered chicken fingers. He bought toys she was too old for. "Daddy seems sad," Emma told me after one visit. Divorce makes everyone sad for a while, but sometimes sad feelings now help everyone be happier later. Meanwhile, my life began to expand in ways I'd forgotten were possible. I had dinner with friends without checking my phone constantly. I rearranged furniture without asking permission. I signed Emma up for art classes because she wanted them. The legal proceedings moved quickly. Marcus's attorney tried every intimidation tactic, but Catherine was better. She presented our case methodically. Marcus's documented abuse, his drinking, his absence from Emma's daily life. The custody evaluation was particularly telling. Emma spoke honestly about feeling scared when Daddy got loud, about wanting to live with Mommy, about missing when our house felt happy. "Your daughter is remarkably well-adjusted," the psychologist told me. "She clearly sees you as her primary emotional support." Marcus's evaluation didn't go well. His controlling nature emerged even clinically. He interrupted the psychologist, dismissed Emma's concerns as manipulation tactics, and became agitated when asked about anger management. The final hearing took place on a gray October morning. Marcus sat across the courtroom with his expensive attorney, looking every inch the successful lawyer, but I could see the cracks. The tremor in his hands, his clenched jaw. Judge Patricia Williams was in her 60s, with kind eyes and a reputation for fairness. She'd clearly read every document. "This case involves a child whose well-being must be our primary concern," she began. "I've reviewed the evidence, the custody evaluation, and statements from both parents." My heart hammered as she continued. "While Mr. Davidson is clearly a devoted father who loves his daughter, the evidence suggests a pattern of behavior that creates an unstable environment. The verbal outbursts, financial control attempts, and dismissive attitude toward the child's emotional needs are concerning." Marcus's face went white. "Therefore, I'm awarding primary physical custody to Mrs. Davidson, with liberal visitation rights for Mr. Davidson, contingent upon completing anger management courses." I felt my knees go weak with relief. Catherine squeezed my hand. But Judge Williams wasn't finished. "I want to be clear, this isn't about punishment. It's about creating the most stable environment for Emma. Mr. Davidson, you have the opportunity to address these issues." Marcus stood abruptly, his chair scraping. For a moment, I thought he might storm out, but his attorney whispered urgently, and he sat back down. The financial settlement was equally favorable. Despite Marcus's threats to hide assets, Catherine had found evidence of secret accounts, expensive dinners, mysterious jewelry purchases. I walked away with half of everything, plus child support. As we left the courthouse, Marcus caught up with me on the steps. "I hope you're happy," he said bitterly. "You've destroyed everything we built." I turned to face him, this man I'd loved and feared equally. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. I didn't destroy our marriage, Marcus. I just stopped pretending it was worth saving. He opened his mouth to argue, then seemed to deflate. She was everything to me. No, I said gently. Controlling her was everything to you. Actually loving her would have meant wanting her happiness. For just a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd married. Vulnerable, uncertain, almost human. Then his mask slipped back into place. This isn't over. Yes, it is.
6 months later, Emma and I stood in the doorway of our new apartment, boxes stacked around us like monuments to our fresh start. It wasn't as big as the house, and the neighborhood wasn't as prestigious, but it was ours. "Can I really paint my room purple?" Emma asked for the 10th time. "As purple as you want," I confirmed, laughing. She ran off to explore, and I found myself alone in what would be our living room. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating dust motes that danced like celebrations. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. "How's the new place?" "Perfect," I typed back. Absolutely perfect. It wasn't perfect, of course. Nothing ever was. But it was honest and peaceful and full of possibility. Emma laughed more. I slept better. We ate cereal for dinner sometimes just because we could. Marcus had completed his anger management courses and was slowly rebuilding his relationship with Emma. Their visits were more successful now, quieter, more focused on her interests rather than his agenda. He'd even apologized to me, awkwardly and clearly reluctantly, but genuinely. "I never meant to..." Then he stopped. I didn't realize how I was acting. "I know," I said, "but Emma deserved better. We both did." He'd nodded, looking older than his 42 years old. "I'm trying to be better. For her. That's all any of us can do." Now standing in our new home, I thought about the woman I'd been 2 years ago, the one who apologized for having feelings, who dimmed her own light to avoid conflict, who believed that love meant lessening than she deserved. She'd been wrong about so many things, but she'd been right about one crucial fact. She was emotional, deeply, genuinely, unapologetically emotional. And that hadn't been the problem. It had been her greatest strength. Emma appeared in the doorway, her face flushed with excitement. "Mom, you have to see the view from my window. You can see the whole park." I followed her down the hall, listening to her chatter about trees and swings and possibilities. At 8 years old, she was already braver than I'd been at 30. She felt things fully and expressed them freely, secure in the knowledge that her emotions were valid and valuable. That night, after Emma was asleep in her purple room, I sat on our second-hand couch with a cup of tea and my journal. I wrote about the apartment hunting, about Emma's joy, about the slow healing of wounds I'd carried for years. At the bottom of the page, I added a note to my past self. "You called yourself too emotional, and you were right. You felt everything: joy, sadness, anger, hope, love, disappointment. You felt it all so deeply that it scared you and everyone around you. But feelings aren't the enemy. Letting someone else convince you they were, that was the real mistake." I closed the journal and looked around our little apartment, this sanctuary we'd built from the ruins of my marriage. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new fears, new joys. Emma would grow up. I would continue healing. Marcus would hopefully become the father she deserved. But tonight, in this moment, I was exactly where I needed to be. Home, whole, and unapologetically myself. And that was more than enough. If this story shocked you, just wait for what's next. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, And of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single notification.